Have you ever been betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect you, and they just stood there and watched you suffer? That feeling, that ache of being abandoned by someone who knew you, who shared your blood, who called you family. That is the wound at the center of one of the most powerful books in all of Scripture. The Book of Obadiah, 21 verses, the shortest book in the Old Testament. And yet inside these 21 verses, God delivers one of the most complete and devastating judgments in all of biblical history. Today, at Light of Grace, we're going to go deeper than most people ever go. We're going to uncover the betrayal that started with two brothers in a womb. We're going to discover the prophetic connection that most pastors never teach, a detail that connects Obadiah directly to the birth of Jesus Christ. And we're going to ask ourselves one question that might be uncomfortable. Are we more like Edom than we want to admit? Stay with me. This one will change how you read the Old Testament forever. To understand Obadiah, you have to go back, way back, to a moment before the nations even existed. Genesis 25, verse 21. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was childless. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. And she didn't just become pregnant, she was carrying twins. And even inside the womb, these two were already struggling against each other. God told Rebekah something stunning in Genesis 25, verse 23. 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. 1 people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. The older was Esau, the younger was Jacob. Esau would become Edom, Jacob would become Israel. From before their first breath, the story of these brothers was already written. And it was marked by rivalry, jealousy, and eventually betrayal. Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of soup. Jacob stole his brother's blessing. And by the time these 2 men became 2 nations, the wound between them had never healed. Centuries passed, but the bitterness remained. And when the moment of greatest crisis came, when Israel needed someone to stand with them, Edom looked the other way. That is the backstory of Obadiah. A family wound so deep it lasted generations. Here is what most people miss. The betrayal of Edom was not just political. It was personal. God did not just see a nation failing to help an ally. He saw a brother abandoning a brother. And that changed everything about how he responded. It is 586 BC. The Babylonian army has just broken through Jerusalem's walls. The temple, the house of God, is burning. Families are being torn apart. And where is Edom? Obadiah 1 verse 11. On the day you stood aloof while strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you were like one of them. You were like one of them. You stood by, you watched, and in your silence you became complicit. But Obadiah doesn't stop at silence. He lays 7 specific charges against Edom. 7 moments where Edom had a choice and chose cruelty instead. 1. You gloated. When Jerusalem fell, Edom celebrated. 2. You rejoiced. You found joy in your brother's destruction. 3. You boasted. You used Israel's pain to feel superior. 4. You entered the city. You walked through the gates to loot. 5. You looked down on them. You treated the survivors like they were beneath you. 6. You seized their wealth. You took what little remained. 7. And this is the worst, you stood at the crossroads and cut off the fugitives. When broken, bleeding people tried to escape, Edom blocked the road. Edom captured them and handed them over to Babylon. Obadiah 1 verse 14. You should not have stood at the crossroads to cut down their fugitives, nor should you have handed over their survivors in the day of their distress. Read that again slowly. You should not have. God is not speaking in cold legal language here. This is the language of a father who expected better from his children. This is grief wrapped in judgment. God is saying, you knew what was right. You had every opportunity to act, and you chose this. But here is where it gets deeply personal, because we need to ask ourselves, when have we stood at the crossroads? When have we had the power to help someone and chose silence instead? When have we blocked the road for someone trying to escape their pain? Through gossip, through judgment, through looking away. Edom's crime was not just what they did. It was what they refused to do. Now I want to show you something that will reframe everything. Obadiah's prophecy declares the complete destruction of Edom. And history confirms it. The Babylonians turned on Edom. The Nabateans drove them from their mountain city of Petra. And within centuries, the Edomite nation ceased to exist. But before they disappeared entirely, Edom, now called Idumea under Roman rule, produced one final king. And this king would be written into the New Testament forever. His name was Herod the Great, an Idumean, a descendant of Esau, an Edomite sitting on the throne of Israel. And when the wise men came from the east asking, "Where is the one-born king of the Jews?" it was Herod who felt the threat. It was an Edomite who ordered the massacre of the innocents in Bethlehem. It was the descendant of Esau who tried to kill the seed of Jacob. Matthew 2 verse 16. When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under. Let that land. The ancient hatred between Esau and Jacob, between Edom and Israel, reached its final desperate act at the birth of Jesus Christ. The Edomite tried to extinguish the light of the world, and he failed, because no human hand can stop what God has set in motion. Obadiah 1 verse 18. The house of Jacob will be a fire and the house of Joseph a flame. The house of Esau will be stubble, and they will set it on fire and destroy it. Fire versus stubble. One consumes the other completely, and history tells us exactly how it ended. Edom is gone. Israel remains. Jesus lives. Now Obadiah turns his gaze beyond Edom. He speaks a word that should make every nation, every leader, every person stop and listen. Obadiah 1 verse 15. The day of the Lord is near for all nations. As you have done, it will be done to you. Your deeds will return upon your own head. The day of the Lord. This phrase appears 29 times in the Old Testament. It is not just one future event. It is a pattern, a divine principle. There are moments in history when God steps in, when the patience of heaven runs out and justice arrives. We saw it with Edom. We saw it with Babylon. We saw it with Rome. We will see it again. But Obadiah's warning is not just for nations. It is for you and me. As you have done, it will be done to you. Are we showing mercy or withholding it? Are we using our strength to protect the vulnerable or to protect only ourselves? Are we silent when we should speak? Are we blocking the road for someone who is barely holding on? The pride of your heart has deceived you. Obadiah 1 verse 3. Edom thought they were too high, too safe, too powerful to face consequences. And God says, "I can see your nest from here, and I will bring you down." Now listen, because this is the part of Obadiah that doesn't get enough attention. After all the judgment, after all the warning, after the complete destruction of Edom is declared, God speaks one final word. And it is not destruction, it is restoration. Obadiah 1 verse 17. But on Mount Zion will be deliverance. It will be holy, and Jacob will possess his inheritance. On Mount Zion, the place where God dwells, there will be deliverance. There will be holiness. There will be a return of what was lost. And then the very last verse, the final word of the entire book. And the kingdom will be the Lord's, not Babylon's, not Edom's, not Rome's, not any human empire that has ever declared itself untouchable. The kingdom will be the Lord's. This is the promise that runs through all of Scripture, from Obadiah's 21 verses to the final chapter of Revelation. Evil does not win. Betrayal does not have the last word. The proud are brought down and the faithful are raised up. And if you are sitting here today carrying a wound, a betrayal that hasn't been answered, a prayer that hasn't been resolved, an injustice that still feels wrong, Obadiah is a word for you. God saw it. God sees it still. And the kingdom will be the Lord's. If the book of Obadiah spoke to you today, share this video with someone who needs to hear that God sees what was done to them. You never know whose heart it might reach. If you haven't subscribed to Light of Grace yet, hit that button now. We go deep into the Word every single week, and there is always more to discover. And if you want to go even deeper, watch our video on the Book of Amos next, another prophet who speaks God's judgment against the nations that betray the vulnerable. The link is right here. May God's justice be your comfort, and may His kingdom be